In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern where we have severe cold expected for weeks to come as we are locked in to a very cold pattern. We have a positive PNA out west. The AO and NAO, if you're familiar with them, have both expected to spike negative over the coming days, and we are all set for major cold air again for potentially weeks. The National Weather Service and Climate Prediction Center are indicating strong chances of very far below normal temperatures for an extended period of time. I'm going to show that at the end of the video. And we have a potential major snowstorm on the way. So there's so much to unpack here. Let's just dive into things. And we're taking a look here at Sunday afternoon, tomorrow from the time we are making this video, and what we see is some snowfall happening out west. And really this is almost the opposite of what we're going to be seeing for a majority of today's video, where we have this little bit of a dip in the jet stream out west and actually a little bit more of a ridge in the east. Things are going to get a lot more decent here in the east for a while. It's going to last a couple of days here as we're going to see 50s and 60s, kind of normal to maybe 1 or 2 degrees above normal for most areas. It's going to be pleasant, nothing to write home about, obviously, I guess, if you're wanting the cold and snow, but it is much cooler than we've been seeing for weeks now, and it's what I've predicted after this initial cool down that we've just had would happen. We're seeing kind of a segue into winter, if you will. As we keep going, though, I want to get us into the action here. Monday on the 25th, we have a very, very weak low pressure center over the Great Lakes, and this is bringing snowfall showers to the north of it, rainfall showers to the south of it. Pretty standard stuff. I want to take us towards Tuesday the 26th, and things get a little bit cooler. What we're seeing is this trough in the west is lifting off a little bit, and we're actually getting a little bit of a trough here in the east, as you can see, where some colder air is able to make its way in, and some warmer air is overall starting to work its way into the west. It's hard to tell because we have so much snowfall out there, and this is kind of a lesson, you know, the elevation is king, and what we end up seeing happening is still mountainous snowfall despite the overall milder pattern in the west than they were seeing. It doesn't really matter, you know, if we're in a milder pattern or a colder pattern. The west is going to be snowy if precipitation is moving through. Let's go ahead and keep going. I want to take us straight towards Wednesday here on November 27th, and some interesting things begin to take place. Two main features, I should say. One, a stronger low over New Mexico. This is bringing snowfall to the southern Rockies here. Overall, we see warmer temperatures out to the east of it, but this is going to be a big player in what brings our initial area of cold air. We also have a low over the southern Hudson Bay, and this has been a big time indicator for cold air in the east so far this fall. Anytime we see a low set up here, cold air is on the way. Let's go ahead and see what happens as we approach Thursday, Thanksgiving, and interesting things start to happen. Again, that low just hangs out over the southern Hudson Bay. Cold air begins to get dragged in behind that low that was over New Mexico. It's all the way near kind of like the southeast here over Tennessee and North Carolina. We even have snowfall starting out for New York and Pennsylvania. And we have warmer, even warmer air now taking place over the southwest as this is really taking hold. All of this is critical. And remember, the GFS model is the same model that had this low very far to the south, kind of sliding off the coast. What we're going to see this time around in today's model run is almost directly on the coast here. As we've been saying, the GFS tends to put things too far to the southeast, and I'm glad I was preaching that all week because we're seeing that play out basically now, where it is folding to the European model solution. It is dragging itself to the north, as we so often see with this model. Let's take a look at Friday. Well, let's pump the brakes here. Let's take a look at actually 4 a.m. on Friday before we get to the afternoon. And this low is nearby Maryland. We have snow stacked like a column all the way from the southern Appalachian Mountain Range in Tennessee and North Carolina up through Kentucky, Western Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, North Carolina, Utah, Ohio there, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, the Berkshires of Massachusetts, and northern Maine, all seeing heavy snowfall due to this strong low in between Thanksgiving and Black Friday. As we move towards the afternoon of Friday here, we see this low is going to be near Rhode Island, actually, is a 987, which is a particularly strong low, by the way. We have snowfall around for Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, New England, but the heaviest is going to be for New York and New England here, kind of north of this point. So a lot of the Adirondacks, the Catskills, the Green Mountains, the Berkshires, the White Mountains, northern Maine there, all seeing the heaviest snow by this point. And also by Friday afternoon, look at the jet stream diving southward for the east here. And we see a very extreme trough located over these areas with very warm air really taking hold of the southwest. This is what causes the cold to pour into the east. I know I've said it so many times if you watch every single video, but I like to talk in my videos as if it's somebody's first time watching one of mine. I feel like it's really important for people to be educated on this stuff, like the warm in the west. It's something to really watch for that can consistently show you what's going to follow suit in the east. Also, like the GFS southeast bias, I feel like a lot of people didn't know about that, and it makes me feel good to know that some people now understand that, and these biases that are very, very, they've been around forever, probably like 20 years on the GFS, maybe more, as far as like how long that's been a known thing, and it helps people to know what to see in the long range. The long range is difficult, and anything we can use to help us kind of decipher things is good to use, obviously. Now, as we keep going, I want to take us towards Saturday. We see that low takes off to the north. We're basically seeing it come to an end for America, at least, but for Canada, we see heavy snowfall in eastern Canada. Some leftover snow showers around for the Ohio Valley and Northeast, as we are left with brutal Arctic air for all of these areas in here. We're seeing the Northern Plains, Upper Midwest, Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic, even the Northeast and Eastern Canada. Brutal Arctic air, and much colder across the deeper South as well than what we have been seeing. Look at how warm it is out west. The jet stream is all the way up here. Still some Sierra Nevada snowfall is occurring. So again, milder pattern doesn't really matter when it comes to elevation. Let's take a look here at Sunday on December 1st, and this might even be colder than Saturday. We see a brutal trough really taking over here for a majority of the east. We just see these areas really, really cold. Probably most areas in here 10, 15, 20, maybe more degrees below what is typical. So very, very cold. Probably a lot of people seeing their first below freezing days. Just brutal cool down. This would be brutal in late December, January timeframe, just to put it in perspective. So even early December, this is extreme. Monday, it's still here, so it's a multi-day cool down, this individual one. We're looking at the GFS model where we only have maybe 2 or 3 of these. The European model has even more. We're going to look at that in a moment, but this is lasting. This is the 3rd day where it has just stood tight right here over the east. It is going to be a cold few days. We see snow showers around. This would surely get all of your Great Lakes going with lake effect snowfall, by the way. So this model is a higher or a lower resolution model, so you can't really see the fine details, but in reality, a cool down like this suddenly here in the east would surely get those lakes firing up and maybe bring a large scale lake effect snowfall event, is what I suspect could happen here for the first few days of December. As we look at Tuesday the 3rd, I'm not too surprised, but this cooldown is still going. Really, really cold still throughout all of these areas in the east, and we see this very solid positive PNA basically staying put. We continue to see the lakes bringing that lake effect snowfall for probably the 3rd day in a row. You can imagine how that would accumulate. Wednesday is still really cold. And a couple of weeks ago, this would have been something that cold and snow lovers would be rejoicing for, but really this is the warmest day out of the previous 5 we've looked at here between the final day of November and December 4th here. So this is the warmest we've seen so far. As we keep going, it kind of just stays cold. Thursday, again, this would have been just great weeks ago, but now it's looking a little mild on this frame, but it really isn't. This is probably 5-10 degrees below normal still over these eastern areas. Very warm out west, and we do see some mountainous snowfall for the Cascades and Rockies here, but even those areas, it's quite mild. Friday here on the 6th, we are finally warming up a little bit back to normal temperatures. Saturday, maybe a little bit like the same. We do have this low south of the Hudson Bay. This could bring in more cold air, and it looks like that could be happening as we have a positive PNA set up still. This colder air appears to be dipping behind that low, so this could be bringing more of that cold air on the way. See what happens. We do get another shot. Again, this would have been great. This would have been just really, really cold a couple of weeks ago, but this might get kind of, it might fall in the shadow of that previous cooldown that we just looked at, because that one is extreme. This one is still fairly major. It's just not on that extreme level. And it does pass pretty quickly, as by Monday, it looks like we're getting mild again, or at least back to normal. The European model, like I mentioned, is actually even more extreme. So let's take a look at this. As we take a look, this is the model that's been correct for the most part, or at least more correct with this storm. But look at by the time we reach Wednesday, you see the cold air coming in. Remember, that low was sliding a little south of there on the GFS. Something like this is what we saw in the GFS. We are going to see a much more northern route here on the European model. Maybe something a lot more like that. It's closer together now, but still to the north of the GFS model. And I think something in between the two is where the truth lies, honestly, with this one. Here is Thanksgiving Day. This would be disastrous for a lot of folks. 991 over Ohio and Pennsylvania. Snowfall throughout portions of the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic and Northeast there. Brutal cold air moving in behind all of this. We see it just come in a little too early, and then we see it offshore of New England where we get some snowfall on the back end. We're left with this brutal cold air. Lake effect snowfall is going crazy. Here's Sunday on December 1st. Again, more snowfall. Cold is continuing. Here's Monday the 2nd, Tuesday the 3rd, Wednesday the 4th. That's when things get back to normal, but look at this. On this model, we haven't really moved an inch with this positive PNA out west. This is just holding tight, and we're getting another influx of this very cold air moving straight back into the east. We did not see this on the GFS model. Watch this. Here is Thursday, December 5th, Friday, December 6th. Another major cooldown as your jet stream is taking a deep dive into the east, something along these lines, with brutal, brutal, brutal cold air moving almost directly southward for most areas. This would bring a lot of that directly south lake effect snowfall. So some areas where they typically see it, moving a little bit to the north of them, might see this lake effect snowfall take a turn towards the south for a little bit here. Friday the 6th, Saturday the 7th. So this has been another 3, 4, 5 day cooldown. And then here's the final frame of this model run, Sunday the 8th, and we still have this brutal cold air setup over the eastern states with another low perhaps moving down and through. So we could be watching somewhere in this pocket. It's really hard to pinpoint, obviously, but more snowfall chances if this model is correct. Now, the total precipitation, we're going to dive into the temperatures in a little bit, but this is good news. We see above average amounts for much of the east. Might be a little sporadic or close to normal for a lot of them, but there is some above average precipitation in here. Also out west, we get quite a bit, although it's below average for the Pacific Northwest. Let's take a look at the anomalies. And sure enough, again, the Southwest seeing a lot of the above average amounts, although the Northwest sees some. And then we do get this swath of kind of above normal precipitation for some of these areas, while it's a lot closer to normal for others. But still, fairly good news in the precipitation department. Here's the total snowfall in the GFS model. We do see a lot of the West seeing their fair share of snowfall. The Sierra Nevadas maybe above average, but these areas are slightly below average, I would say. We're actually going to take a zoom in look at the Northeast here on this GFS model, because we have our major snowstorm and lake effect snowfall included here. Anywhere in the grays would be a dusting, if anything. Blues 2 to 6 inches, purple 6 to 10, pinks 10 to 20, pastel blues 20 to 30, and those pastel pinks, we're looking at 30 inches plus. We're seeing probably feet of snowfall here near these lakes in New York and Pennsylvania. This is just really, really a monstrous amount of lake effect snowfall, which, as you know, every couple of years does happen. So, and I've noticed that late November, early December is a hotspot time for major lake effect events. So we'll be watching it closely. I think this could be something major to watch for. Even some of those Canadian areas getting lake effect snowfall. So definitely very interesting. The European model, here's the entire east. We see that the Ohio Valley through the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast actually gets a really good swath of 6 to 10, 10 to 20 in those pinks. So we get more of a major snowstorm up to the north here, while the GFS model still has it more stacked along the east here. So a little bit different. Either way, we have a major snowstorm on both models. It's going to be about which one ends up coming true. But look at those lakes. We see Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, all seeing major lake effect snowfall, and even parts of Canada there. Very, very extreme. As we take a look at our accumulated positive snow depth that we tend to look at, we see that these amounts could be a lot closer to 6 to 10 in the bullseye than the total snowfall. The total snowfall doesn't account for any melting or anything. This one is actually what the model is predicting to stick. But we do see quite a bit of that snowfall in these areas. Definitely something to watch for. And I guess I'll do just an eastern view so we get the Ohio Valley too. But we see 2 to 6 inches through a lot of these blues. So yeah, lots of 2 to 6. The 6 to 10 is mostly coming from the lakes and then some of this mountainous New England areas as well as Canada. Now the temperatures, which we're going to look at the Climate Prediction Center and the National Weather Service's outlooks in a minute. But here's the GFS. We get this brief warm up. Here's major cool down. Well, this is the little bit of a mild one that comes in for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Here comes that major one though. Here's Thursday, Thanksgiving, Friday, Black Friday, Saturday the 30th, Sunday the 1st, Monday the 2nd. Look at that brutal cold air. The greens are 10 to 15 degrees below normal. These blues within the greens are 15 to 25 degrees below normal. So we're seeing huge departures from what's typical. And this lasts, let's see how long this cool down actually lasts. Here's Friday the 29th. It's fully embedded. Saturday, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish days, depending on where you're at. We do warm up here, unless you're along that eastern seaboard, but maybe more cold air on the way according to that model. As we saw earlier, the European model is actually a little bit more extreme with it, so let's go ahead and just tally it up. Here we go with the cool down. As you can see, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Here comes that next one though on this model. There's Thursday the 5th, Friday the 6th, Saturday the 7th. And you can see we are getting equally cold air with this second cool down, and that's almost the entire model run. Speaking of the entire model run, let's look at the final 10 days of that entire model run. That is an extreme look. That's the 28th through the 8th. We have warm, positive PNA out west, with the cold air clearly just moving straight towards the east. This is just textbook, what we've been predicting for weeks. I'm very proud about this one. Here's the National Weather Service's 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. I've gotten so many comments and I don't know, it's just mind boggling, but you know, they'll say nobody's forecasting, you know, below normal temperatures. Where are you getting this BS from basically? And I get so many comments like that, and here it is. You know, I like to talk about the long range, the things that nobody else is talking about, because why else would people watch me? We already have the professionals covering the things happening over the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. I like to go beyond and teach you guys about how we can kind of figure out what might be happening in the future. And it's more fun to me anyway. That's what I'm interested in. And that's what it's all about, right? So we ended up being right, severely right with this one. Here's the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook now from the National Weather Service, where they're on board. And now all of a sudden you see everybody posting, oh, below normal temperatures coming, below normal temperatures coming. They were just waiting for the National Weather Service to talk about it. When really everybody had the same model guidance that I've had. They've been calling for it. Either way, 6 to 10 day outlook, we see the darkest blue they have basically over these areas. So very confident in below normal temperatures from November 29th through December 3rd. Here's the 8 to 14 day outlook. Again, going with the deepest blues here over the east. This is December 1st through 7th. These are valid as of today. This is valid as of yesterday, but this is the week 3 through 4 outlook. So this is December 7th through 20th. They have above normal temperatures for the southwest, as we've been seeing already, with below normal temperatures here in this northeastern corridor. So this could spell weeks of below normal temperatures, up to a month. This is through the 20th of December. It's the 23rd today. So we're looking at weeks of potential cold air. Very exciting stuff. We do upload every single day, so be sure to subscribe. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.